Okay, this is the Canon Photo learning area. What we're going to be doing is learning how to take a good picture. So, what you see in front of you is an airplane with its prop spinning. It's got a blurred background in the back of it. Looks like kind of a jump, one of those things that comes out of a box. I forget what they call those. And there's some colored pencils in front. Both blurred. Foreground and background are blurred. The focal point of our picture is not blurred. So our goal is to get good exposures. You'll notice that right down here it says exposure meter, good exposure. So when I take a picture with aperture at 8, shutter speed at 1/60th of a second, and the ISO set at 1600, I should get a picture where the foreground and background, we'll see how blurred those are or how unblurred they are. I should get some prop spin that's picking up in this picture, and I don't get too much digital interference. Okay, so I'm going to take this picture using the camera. I click that, and this is the picture that I get. I get something with a lot of prop spin. You'll notice that these pencils are a lot less blurred, nearly not blurry at all, and I have a pretty clear background as well. So we are going to accept that picture, and then we are going to take another picture. Now we're going to play with our camera settings a little bit. So when I turn my aperture down, my aperture being basically the pupil of my camera, how much light is coming into my picture, that's how you can think of the aperture, like the pupil of your eyeball. If the eyeball pupil is turned down, less light is coming in. Right now, I'm overexposed. Okay? So if I take that picture now, everything is washed out. We don't want something to be washed out. So what I do is I take, if my aperture is at 4, then I've got to change my shutter speed in a converse fashion, meaning in an opposite fashion of where my aperture is. So I've got to change this. Now I'm at 125th of a second. I'm still overexposed, slightly overexposed at 1/180th of a second. This is how long the shutter will be open. 1/250th, I get a good exposure. So let's take a picture of that. Right now we'll have less blur on the prop. Background is going to start to get blurry, and I have no real digital noise coming through here. So if you'll notice, the prop is a little less fanned out than it was prior. We have pencils are a little blurry, and the background's a little blurry. So let's compare it to our first photo. You'll notice there's quite a difference between these two pictures. Although the light is about the same, we have differences in the way that the foreground and background and the prop are picked up. So if you read about this, it says this is a good exposure. Look where your aperture is set, so you remember the next time you're shooting in a similar setting. You're looking at the f-stop, the shallow depth of field. Okay, that's something you need to pay attention to. A low f-stop value like this will isolate your subject from the background. And then we've got shutter speed, which is showing more or less motion depending upon where it's set. So as you're taking these pictures, you're also reading what is going on here, what is happening, why am I getting different things happening with each of these photos. Also, you can write your shutter speeds down if you need to, your aperture settings, and your ISO settings. We haven't even touched ISO yet. Okay, so we're going to go back here, and we have one more photo we can take, or you can trash photos and take as many as you like. I'm going to move my ISO setting a little bit. So ISO setting, how much light or dark is being set. Try to use the lowest ISO possible with any picture. But if the effect you want ends up underexposed, then you have to increase the ISO. We still have a good exposure. Okay, if the effect you want ends up overexposed, try to decrease the ISO. Remember, a high ISO will cause graininess in the image. That means if I twist it all the way up here, you notice that there's a grainy pattern behind this profile. So what I'm going to do is dial this down until I can get a picture that's good but not slightly underexposed. Let's check that one out and see what happens. Okay, now I see a lot of blur, foreground, background. Prop is nearly not moving. So once again, it's changed my effect. So this is what you're going for. You're learning about your camera with these different settings. You're going to take 3 of these pictures, and after that, here's where I want you to go. I want you to go into the photo challenge. That's where you need to get 6 good shots. Okay, 6 good shots, and it's going to challenge you to do some different things. So put your photography skills to the test. Are you ready? Start the challenge now. The first one is get a good exposure. So let's try that out. I think we learned in our first tutorial that if you set everything to the middle, you should get at least a good exposure. If you click that, you're going to see you got a check mark. Now there are 5 more challenges to do. The second one is blur the foreground and background around the plane. So if you were paying attention to your settings, you can start to mess with that and see if you get a check mark on your second. Or do you need to move these to get a check mark? What you're looking for are 6 check marks. When you get that done, let's say you got this done and you had 6 check marks here, you would print screen. Okay, print screen is right next to F12 on your keyboard. If you're working with a Chromebook, I don't know if you have a print screen or how to print the screen, but at a regular keyboard, print screen is right next to F12.
May I have your attention? All students need to exit the building at this time. You will need to re-enter if you are here to watch wrestling. Again, all students need to exit the building at this time. You'll need to re-enter through the front doors if you are here to watch wrestling.
I am going to hit print screen and give you an idea of what this does. I hit print screen, nothing seemed to happen. I will go to a Google Doc. I will get that Google Doc and I will select it, and then I will Control V, and Control V, I have 2 screens, so you're seeing actually a double screen here. Control V will give you 1 picture. Those 6 results will show up right here in this picture. Once you have that on your Google Doc and you've titled it something like Canon Photo Challenge, then you can get a shareable link. Get a shareable link to me, copy the link and call it done. You're going to open your Google Classroom, and mine looks different than yours. Yours is going to say open. So you're going to open this, you're going to add that link, and then you're going to turn in, and that link will appear here with the 16 others. Okay? I hope that's helpful, and have a good weekend.